Sicily, Cyprus, and some other islands could be independent nations. The Sicilians are a good example because they have a different language than the Italians. Why are the Italians ruling over a group of people who have a different language and a completely separate land area? For all we know, one of the reasons Sicily has so many problems with crime is because the Italians don't pay much attention to them. It might be better for the Sicilians if they were independent and if they were managing their own lives. So imagine that a group of Sicilians set up an organization to make Sicily an independent nation. Would you support such a plan? Or do you think Sicily should be under the control of Italy? I think a lot of people would support independence for Sicily. However, what if the people who were organizing Sicily's independence were members of the Gambino crime family? And what if their true purpose for bringing independence to Sicily is to allow the gang to get control of the nation so that they have access to tax money, the police, and the military, thereby allowing them to conduct whatever illegal operations they please without any concern about being arrested? And what if they also wanted control over the media and the school system so that they could manipulate the children and prepare them for life in the crime network? And what would you think if thousands of Sicilian gang members were moving to America and Europe so that they could purchase our media companies, bribe our government officials, and get into our military, thereby giving the Sicilian gang some control over our nation? And what would you think if they were providing us with propaganda on our television that Italy is developing weapons of mass destruction and that we must bomb Italy? And what would you think if Joe Lieberman was Sicilian and he was pushing America into bombing Italy? And what would you think if Michael Chertoff was Sicilian? And what would you think if the September 11th attack was blamed on Italy? And if Larry Silverstein was Sicilian and 5 dancing Sicilians were caught celebrating the attack? And what would you think if the Sicilian military began bombing the Greek islands for no apparent reason, similar to how the Israeli military bombed Lebanon in the summer of 2006? Would you support the Sicilian gang in their attempt to bring independence to Sicily? There is nothing wrong with opposing Zionism, and there's nothing wrong with saying that we must get rid of this entire network. If a group of Hawaiian criminals were trying to create their own nation and take over the world, or if a group of Irish criminals were trying to get control of Ireland, you would complain about them. So why not complain about a group of Jewish criminals? We have enough evidence that the Zionist movement is behind 9/11, the attack on the USS Liberty, the world wars, the Holocaust lies, the Apollo moon landing, the communist slaughters, and lots of other crimes. It's time to start discussing how do we get rid of this Zionist network and what should we do with Israel. A lot of the so-called truth seekers are trying to convince us that only a small number of Jews are involved in Zionist crimes. But there's something interesting to consider. Go back to my analogy of a group of Hawaiian criminals who are secretly trying to take over the world. What would happen as honest Hawaiians discovered that a group of criminals is trying to get control of them? Don't you think that some of the honest Hawaiians would complain that they don't want criminals in control? Now look at the Israelis and the Zionists. It's been 6 years since 9/11 and decades since the attack on the USS Liberty, the Holocaust, and the World Wars. Where are the Zionists who are shocked to discover that criminals are in control of their network? Where are the Jews asking us to help them get rid of those criminals? If only a small minority of Jews were involved in Zionist crimes, then that means the majority are not involved. So I would expect that a large majority of honest Jews would be upset that they're being taken over by a group of criminals. And I would also expect at least a few Jews to have concern about the suffering of us Goyim. So where are the Jews who care about the suffering that occurred in Europe, Japan, and China as a result of the world wars? Where are the Jews who care about the suffering in East Europe and Russia because of the Zionists? Where are the Jews who care about the Armenians? Where are the Jews who care about the suffering from the 9/11 attack or the wars in the Middle East?